Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm ShyWizard. I want to have a look a little further into the Bale Stack add-on mod. I had a comment on the previous video. Got my interest piqued a little bit to do with the different textures of bales, because we have some really fantastic modded balers with net wrapping and different size capabilities. So you can select what size of bale you want to actually create, whether it be a 110, 130, 155, 180, whatever. Now I'm going to be talking about round bale stacks in this particular case because that's the only ones I have access to. I haven't really looked that hard, if I'm honest, but ones that I'm going to be working with are ones I've already got. So I'm going to take some parts from the free version of the Straw Harvest add-on. I do have the paid version, version 1.1, as an encrypted file, which I can show you guys just here. We're going to here in the PDLC folder, Straw Harvest add-on DLC. I do have the paid version, but this is the free version just because it has some parts in here that I can work with and make changes to. The updated version 1.1 is encrypted, so I can't access that. I'm not going to even attempt to, but this is a free version. Anybody can get hold of this, so work with that or any other modded baler, for example, that may give you what you need. So I'm going to take the grass bale stack, round bale stack from here, and I'm going to try and work out a way to change not only the texture of the actual bale itself, so when we put in a modded bale with a net wrap and everything else into the stack, it will look exactly the same as the bale that we put in, but also change the attributes so I get back out the same bale that I put in. But more importantly, what I want to look at is also restricting what bale stack will accept what size of bale. So I don't want to put in a 180 bale and get a 130 or a 110 bale back out again. If I put a 180 bale in, I want to get a 180 bale back out again. So I've had a look through this script here, the Storage House Lua script, and there are some attributes, user attributes within here that will actually allow us to restrict what can be put in and then work with that. And it does say if attributes are not used, then any bale size will be accepted. This is most of the modded stack bale stacks that I've looked at are set up as standard, so they have none of these user attributes in place, so any size bale will be accepted. And I want to try and restrict that, so if I take a 130 bale to a 110 stack, it won't allow me to put it in. So I'm going to have a bit of an experimentation with these and add in some of these user attributes and see if that's a possibility. So, similar to what I did in the last video, I'm going to choose a bale stack. I'm going to work with the round bale stack, like I say, and I'm going to work with the grass one. So I'm going to take grass round bale stack here, and I'm going to create my own version of this. So I'm going to go export all with files. Actually, what I will do before I do that, I'm going to take the name from it so I don't have to type it, and I'm going to go file, export all with files. I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop here. Exactly the same setup as what I did in the previous video, just we're working with round bales instead of squares. So I'll open that folder up and I'm going to paste that name into there, save, keep the parent directory structure, close all of that down. We'll come back to that in a little bit. So got my round bale stack of grass with all the appropriate parts in here. Excellent. So if I actually open this one up, just make sure there's no errors in the console, which there are not. Fantastic. Now the way that obviously this particular mod has been set up really well actually, with the cover and everything. I'm not going to try and mess about with the actual cover that goes over the bale stack here and everything else, because resizing it, rescaling it and whatever else just take far too long for the video. But if you wanted to do that, have at it. But because of the way that this is kind of following the line of the bales themselves, if you put a 110 bale in here or a 180 bale, these may not follow the bale itself anymore, so you may need to get involved with Blender and things like that, but I'm not going to do that for the video. So I'm just going to replace all of the bales, including the cover itself, and then put something together here. At least my hope is that the video will give you directions to go in, if nothing else, to create your own kind of setup with the different bale textures and whatever else. Now, when working with textures, obviously sometimes there are instances where you can literally take one texture, replace it with a different texture, and it will give you exactly what you want. But sometimes that's not the case because of the way the UV unwrap has been applied to a particular mesh, the object itself. That may be different to to another object. So just replacing textures won't work. You have to replace the entire object to then bring over its own UV unwrap and all the rest of it. So that's what I'm going to do in this particular case, because just changing textures isn't enough. So what I want to do then is take a bale that I want to work with here for this particular setup, and then bring that into my bale stack mod. So I'm going to work with the 110 bale here. So if I open this one up in GiantSerter, and obviously it's important to choose the correct field type for the bale stack that you're going to be creating and all the rest of it. I don't want to bring over the entire bale as it is. I just want the visuals in this particular case. So I'm actually going to take the round bale viz, which is, like I say, just the visual stuff that's applied to it and the parts that are within. So I'm going to highlight this one. Again, I'm going to take the name from here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go File, Export Selection with Files. And in my round bale stack here, I'm just going to paste that into there like so. I'm going to go Save and keep the parent directory structure. I now close that one down. Don't need to save that. Close that one down as well. So now I have the appropriate round bale with all of its visuals that I want to bring in to this particular mod structure. Now, when you're actually doing this, you can just go through replacing every single bale individually. Because of the different sizes, these are 130 bales, standard 130 bales. Because of the difference in size, there will be a lot of manipulation that's going to be involved to get them looking the way they should be and all the rest of it. But if I actually use functionalities within the GiantSerter here, I can potentially shorten the amount of time it's going to take me to do that. That's my hope anyway. So I'm going to go File, Import. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right folder here. Round bale stack, round bale viz, and I'm going to just import that anywhere at the bottom of the scene graph here. And then in my building setup for the visual nodes, which are what all these are here, what I want to do is replace all of these with this one that I've brought in. And I'm going to do that by highlighting just any one of these, and then I'm going to go Edit, Replace. And it automatically loads in the one that I've selected to start with. And then I'm going to select the one that I want to replace it with, which is this one here. So I've selected my target, and now I'm selecting the one that I'm going to replace with, and I'm going to load it. There are some parts in here that you may need to have a look at. Because these are just visuals, some of these parts won't make any difference because user attributes aren't going to be applied. Physics attributes, there are no physics because these are just non-rigid objects. Clip distances, again, you may need to look at your clip distances and see that they're going to match what you have set up for all other things, but they can be changed anytime. Keep the names, their names are the same anyway, so that's no problem. So I'm just going to literally click Replace All. Now it's got rid of all of the original bales that were there and replaced it with the one that I want to bring into the actual mod itself. And I can then delete that one. Fantastic. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit repetitive and a little bit sort of boring, I guess, for lack of better words. You're going to have to go through every one of these bales and lower them down to the correct height to match. You may even want to bring in more and whatever else, entirely up to you. So you're just going to have to go through the row here, find the appropriate bales themselves, and just bring them down to the correct levels and all the rest of it. So I did actually find on some of these I don't know whether it's because of the way that they got replaced, the rotation. There are some of these bales that have weird rotations applied to them. So I would probably say when you're doing this, just check those rotations and make sure they're all set to 0 before you go any further, because it can cause potentially some problems when you try to align all the stacks and everything else And also it's important that each bale is placed in the right order, because they are just spawn nodes. So if you don't get the structure correctly, you'll have this bale at the top here spawn before any of the bales below it will spawn in, and it will just appear to be a floating bale in midair with nothing holding it up, and it again will break the immersion somewhat, in my opinion. So just need to make sure that all of these are zeroed out correctly. In my opinion, I think that's the better way to do it. So I'm just going to do these, and then I'll come back and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so I've re-zeroed all of the visuals here. Now, like I said, this is going to be the most time-consuming part of doing this. Will take some patience, but probably worth it at the end, in my opinion. So we know that the bale diameter is 1.1. For me, the easiest way to do this is to actually take the translate X attribute here and then work out what the next bale is going to be by 1.1, the distance of 1.1 between them. So if I actually do, I'm using my calculator on my other monitor here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure which way this needs to go, so let's go, I think that's going to be, so let's do 8.523. So this one should be 7.423. There we go. So what you need to do is basically just do that for every single one of these across the bottom, and then work with the ones above, and so on and so on. So if we do this one, done that one, so this one then is that, and once you've obviously done one, unless you remove it from your calculator, you can literally just minus 1.1 and then go to the next one. This is going to be 323, and then minus 1.1, and then this one will be 5.223, and so on and so on. So once you get into the rhythm of doing that, then you should be pretty good. These ones at the top here are going to be a little bit, again, more trickier, because you're going to have to lower these down to the correct height and reposition them a little bit to suit where they need to be. But again, a little bit of patience, and I think you'll get it there. Just sort of manipulate it around a little bit till you get it to the right position. I think somewhere possibly like that would be okay. And then you'll need to work across all of the different bales there, changing the translate Y, so I can copy that and then bring all of these down to the appropriate height across the entire section here, like so. And then it will be a case of just repositioning all of those. So once you've got all of the spaces correct between each of the bales, then you need to lower down the next level, and then again move those bales into the appropriate positions, and so on and so on. Like I say, very time consuming, but once you've mastered that side of things, I think it will all come together quite nicely. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so once you've actually got all your bales in the appropriate places, and you've repositioned them, and whatever else you've created, your however many sort of layers you want to do, you could do another layer at the back here if you wanted to, and so on and so on. If you're going to do something like that, then I would probably say the best way to do that would be to come into your visual nodes section, find out where the entire kind of layer is, if you like, taking or rows or whatever else you want to call this, being row 1, row 2. So take your row, if you like, whatever you want to call it. So let's start from here at the back, for example, and then go down to like that. And then what I would do is literally duplicate the entire row. So duplicate the entire row by Control D, and then what you'll need to do is find the one that's at the bottom here, and then move that one out to the next part that you want. So you'll need to come across like, again, positioning the bales and whatever else is going to be very time consuming. So find your place where you want it to be, something like that, for example. And then what you'll need to do is go down each one of them. I think it's the translate Z, is it? Let's try it. So you'll need to go through all of these, yeah, and literally change the translate Z to what the others are to create your next row if you want to have more than X amount of rows on there. I don't want that, so what I will do is take all of those and delete them. There we go. This is, like I say, the most time consuming process of all, aligning all of the bales to create the stack that you want to have on the map, or if you're going to go down the placeable route, putting all this together for the visual side of things, very, very time consuming. So if you're, just take that into consideration, how long you want to spend on it, really, I guess. Okay, so what we need to do then, I guess, is change a few attributes and various other different things. What I would say, like the last video, I don't want the icon or the clear areas. I'm not going to be working with the placeable stuff, so I'm going to get rid of both of those. The other thing you want to look at also is your spawn points, so your spawn nodes. These may be slightly different for depending on where the bale is actually going to come out, so, and you may want it on different rotations and various different things like that. So what I would say here for this, take one of your visual bales, doesn't matter which one, make a duplication of it like so, and then paste it into your, or put it into your spawn node section. So with it highlighted, just go Control X and then click on there, Control V, so it's, wherever. Make sure you don't break your stack that you just put together. Alternatively, you could, if I actually just delete that, alternatively you could just choose one of those, Control C, spawn nodes, Control V, if that's easier, whichever way you prefer to do it. So once you've got that into there, what you need to do is then place it in the area where they're going to spawn back out. This is recognized by this protection trigger here, or collision. This is to try and stop the bales from falling over when they spawn in, and all the rest of it. So you will know roughly where you need to put it if you can bring that cube up. If you choose to, you could also make it renderable so you can see it a little easier when you click off of it, but then obviously you won't be able to see through it to place your bales. But however you want to do that, just go with it. And I have so many different methods and ways of doing things, it's very difficult to cover all of them in the video itself, but I would just take your bale and position it somewhere in the appropriate place that you want it to spawn in when you request however many you want. So put it somewhere, say for example like so. You don't want this to be in the ground though, so you just want it to be slightly above the ground, because when you put it in the map, if it spawns in the ground it will freak out. You know what bale physics are like. So you want it just to be slightly higher up than the ground itself that you're going to be putting it onto. And then what you'll need to do is make duplications of that and then space them out appropriately across here, however many you want to spawn into the map. You may want it so that they're actually set up like this. This would prevent them from rolling away when they spawn in. So you need to just work with that a little bit, raise it up a little bit so it's not going to spawn into the ground, like I say. For round bales, I think potentially this would be the better way to do it. So you could have it something like that, for example, and then make a however many you want here. So if I want like 4, let's say 4, so I'm going 1, 2, 3, and then this one I'll move over to here. This one I'll move over to here, and then this one out to something like that. And then what you need to do is take the user attributes from here and apply that to your spawn nodes. So if I click in Translate X, left shift, left control and C, and I can click on my first spawn node, paste that into there, making sure I also change the rotation X to -90 so it spawns the correct way up. Then I take the next one, take all of these, so left shift, left control and C to copy all of them, spawn node, paste, and then -90, and then the next one, click in Translate X, left shift, left control C, click on my spawn node, left shift, left control and V, change the Translate X to 90, and then we'll do the last one here, control C, left shift, left control and C to copy all the Translate X, Y, Z, click on your spawn nodes, paste, and then just make sure you change rotate X to -90. Now I've got all those set up, I can delete those bales, don't need them there. So all of my spawn nodes are set up correctly. You may need to resize your protection box and various different things like that to make sure they don't go outside of that, so they don't fall over and freak out and do weird things with the physics. That may be a little bit of trial and error. Go into game, test it, see what happens, make your box a little bit bigger, but don't make it massive, don't go like silly out here somewhere. You want to make it big enough that it's going to cover the area where your bales are going to spawn in, and that should be fine. Okay, so now that we've got all that set up, we're looking a little bit closer. So what I need to do then is change some parts in here. So like we did in the original one, on the original video, I need to go on create, script callback, and then in here, mod on create dot, and if we take this from our original script, wherever that is, let's see, scripts, storage house, so we'll take a copy of that, and then we need to put that into there like so. So it links the script to this particular mod, it knows what it's going to do. Okay, so count your bales, make sure you've got them right. I'm pretty sure there's about 90 here. I'm going to take a guess and say 90. So storage capacity, grass underscore windrow, the originals, because they were much bigger in size, 54, but now these are 110 bales, they're much smaller, so you can store more, but potentially the storage capacity is going to be very similar because of they don't hold as much. So I'm going to say 90, that's good enough for me. Might be wrong, but but you can count your bales and make sure you get that right, but just so it shows up in the UI correctly and all that. And then what I would suggest to do is change potentially your the names of the actual units themselves, just so you can easily work out which one is which. Now obviously in game you're going to only have the UI to go by. In the editor I would just make some changes to your actual name here in the user and the attributes, so you can, when you bring it into the map, you know which one is which for which size of bale. So we've got round bale stack for grass, so you could change this, do whatever you want there. I'm going to just go D110, so I know it's that's the size of the bale mod itself. That's the size of the bales that's going to be used in there. So this one here, we've got station names, so again you can come into here and go D110 like so. Now my station name there is D110 round bale stack grass, and if you then work with the 130s, the 155s, the 180s, whatever, you can put the appropriate number in there, and then that will work with your UI and everything else, and you'll know which one is which when you approach it. And press the R menu, add the R key in your F1 menu to bring up the appropriate UI to show you what bales are where and what sizes and everything else. Okay, so I need to add in a couple extra user attributes here because I want to limit what bales sizes I can put in here. So going back to the script again, what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to close down these windows because I've got far too many windows open. So if I go back to the scripts again here, we have in the storage house Lua the user attributes that I showed, and we're going to be working with the round bales obviously, so we just want to take the appropriate ones for round bales. So we have only bale width and only bale diameter. So if I take that user attribute from there, or that text, and create my user attribute, so I want to paste that one into there, and this needs to be a float, so I'm going to add that one in. And again with the round, only diameter, or only bale diameter, I'm going to take that text, paste into my new attribute there, or create my new attribute with that name, and this also needs to be a float. And then you need to work out what the diameter and everything else is of the bale. So I can close that down again. Now the bales that obviously we're going to be working with here are in this particular mod setup, so if I go into shared bales, open up the D110 bale, if you're not 100% sure, you can find that information easily from here. So bale diameter is 1.1 and bale width is 1.2. So if we go back into the other one here, bale diameter 1.1. So in here I just need to go 1.1 and then tab across to lock it in. Bale width 1.2, tab across, lock it in. So now theoretically, I'll close that one down, this mod will only accept bales with that diameter and width. It won't accept any others. Hopefully that's going to be the case. We'll test that out when we get into gaming a little bit, or I say a little bit, much later on I expect. So because there's a few things we also need to change in here as well. So let's just have a look through this. So we've got our station name changed and all the appropriate parts in there. We've got some parts in here we need to change. So the unit type is going to be the same. Field type is going to be the same. Object file name, we need to change this. I'm going to leave the HUD the same. Object name, I'm going to change that DD110. So it's UID110 round grass bale. And we need to set all that up in the mod desk, but we'll do that later on. The HUD I'm going to leave the same, but the object file name we need to change. So what I'm going to do is actually take the bales from the straw harvest add-on here and add those to my structure. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that later on, because this is a Giants editor import. I'm not going to be working with, well, I say that, you know what, I'm going to just do it here instead. So let's do it here. Let's do this. So if I actually take this, so it keeps it all the same in the same place, and then path file names will match and everything else. So depending on what bales you're going to be working with, I'm just going to be working with the round grass. So what I can do here is, if I open this one back up again, and I'm going to highlight that one there, file, export all with files, and then if I make sure I'm in the right folder here, round bale stack, I'll type it in, that's fine. 110 grass, save, yes. Let's see what that does. Okay, so what I can do now then is actually take, if I take that name from there, and we'll put that into here. So we need to overwrite what we've got on the end of here. So if I delete all of that stuff, like so, paste .i3d, and then this is going to be, well, once I get it into the map, it's probably going to be maps, round bale stack, and then this one. So we delete that. So whatever you decide to do with your folder structure and everything else, where you're going to put all of this, you'll need to make sure that your path file names are going to match to point to the appropriate bale that you want to spawn back out again. So round bale stack, and then the actual i3D itself. Hopefully that will, can look at that once I get it into the actual map and change it appropriately if I need to. But that is theoretically the object that I'm going to be spawning back out again. I'm going to save that. So if I just actually go into here, I want to make sure that the actual bale does open with no errors. Yeah, okay, so we have the actual bale with the appropriate sizes and everything else. So that should be the bale that I get back out again when I request it from the stack. We'll see what happens with that. So if I take the actual map, same map as what I worked with last time, the sample mod map here, you can see I've got the square bale stack in there. So I'm just going to copy over the round bale stack into the maps folder, and then I'm going to go into the map here in Giants Editor, and then we'll get this imported into the map. I'm not going to worry about placement too much, I'm going to put it where I need to for this. I've got my grass field here and everything else, so I can work with that. So I'm going to go File, Import. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right folder here. It's very important to make sure you're actually importing stuff from the correct folder, because it might look like it's the Pathfinder or the way you're looking is right, you import it and then textures don't work and all the rest of it. So it's always worth just double checking that you're actually in the right folder when you're going to import something. So I want round bale stack of grass. So I'm going to go Control X, click on my bale stacks, Control V, and then Control B and click. And then I need to rotate this one by -90. I'm just, like I said, I'm not worried about the placement. If it blocks the other two, I just want to get it in the map and get it working to show you what potentially can be done with the mod itself. So we have all of the bales here with the correct texture, with the net wrapping on and everything else, which should give us the correct parts and whatever. And like I said before, with the path file name, because I've put this in the maps folder, it's map square bale stack, and then it's pointing to the appropriate square bale stack, round bale stack, and then it's pointing to the appropriate bale that I want to spawn back into the map, so it matches the bale that I've put in from the modded baler. Okay, so, and like I say, theoretically, with these attributes added, these user attributes added, it will only accept bales with a 1.1 diameter or a 1.2 width, or both, theoretically. Again, that's my hope in this particular case. So what we need to do then next, I guess, is to add those parts into the mod desk here. So if I actually take what I'd do is, let's take the station name, make a copy of that one, make a couple of lines here, paste that one in, and then we can take the station name itself from the user attribute here. So I'm going to highlight that one and then overwrite that, and then grass bale stack, that's fine. You can also, if you want to, put D110 grass bale stack, so you know that's going to be displayed in your station name, so you know that the appropriate size bale, if you're going to put the 130s, the 155s and so on, I would also include this in your station name, so it separates each one, so there's no confusion of which one is which and all the rest of it. So then what I want to do is work with the UI, so grass bale, so I'm going to take that line like so, make a couple of lines just to separate everything so you can see it clearly here for the video. And then if I come down to here for my UI, object name UI, I can make a copy from there and then put that onto there like so. Change this one over to round, and again if you want to here you can put D110 round grass bale. Everything else there doesn't need to be messed around with because the GUI is all generic for every building model. The input storage house menu and everything else, all of that is set up as it should be, so we should be pretty good there. So I'm going to save all of that, close that down, and there's always a point when I'm doing anything like this that you can get to a point in the modding section, stage, or whatever you want to call it, and the only way forward is to literally put it in the map and then run it in game and see what happens, see what errors you get, and then fix them, because you can spend days trying to figure out, have I done this, have I done this, have I done this, and you know, the easiest way to do any of it is literally run it in game and see what happens. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to actually go into game, test it. If I get loads of errors, I won't show you that because it will just be in game, out of game real quick. I'll just test it. If all is working perfectly fine, then I'll hit record and we'll continue, and hopefully that's going to be the case, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've come into game and I've cut some grass, got two auto load trailers over there with D110 bales, the smaller bales, and then the standard in-game bales. And I'm just going to show you so you can see all the bits and pieces here. Original grass bale stack for square bales, all the information there, and then we have the original one that I did for the first video, straw bale stack with all the appropriate information there. So if we look in the menu here for the D110 grass bale stack, we have the appropriate information, fantastic, what bales are stored, their capacity per bale, how many places are available, and this would be in the user attribute. You need to change that number if you want to store more, and so on and so on, and then how many we can actually take out in one go if we so choose to, by plus or minus here on the information and the rest of it. So what I'm going to do to start with, I think, is test the larger bales, because I want to see if these bales will be accepted in that particular unit. So what I will do is I'm going to take the things off. I'm going to auto load these back on again just to make it a little easier, hopefully. So if we come over to the area here, and I'm going to go like so, and we'll do like so, and it says size not accepted. So these are literally just on the ground, they're not in the mod. So when you do this, just if you're going to work with auto load trailers, it will unload them, but it's just going to put them on the ground in the area. So I could actually still pick this up because it is actually still a bale, and you can see their size is not accepted because it's not the appropriate size for the mod to accept. So we know that that part is working, which is fantastic. I was really hoping that those user attributes would make a difference, and they did, so that's awesome. Really looking forward to playing around with this a bit more actually, and see if I can make some different size stacks for the 180s and so on, but I'm not going to do that in the video. This is just to show you what can be done with the user attributes and how to set all the different parts up. So if I do that, go auto load these again, and then we'll just do like so and like so, and we didn't get an error or a warning message this time, so I would say that they've successfully gone into the mod, and I can no longer pick these up. If I go into the menu, and you can see the texture matches exactly what we had for the correct bale from the actual unit and everything else, so that's also very good. If I then come into here, press R, you can see we have 16 bales stored, capacity is 3,500 litres, and what I can do then, just to make sure I'm not in the way, I will then do 4, OK, and they spawn back out again. So we have correct bale textures in the mod itself, and we have now correct bales being spawned back out again with their appropriate sizes, 3,500 litres and all the rest of it. If I was to work with the standard grass bales, theoretically I would put the smaller ones into this unit, and then what I would get back out again wouldn't be what I put in, and the textures wouldn't match. They would just have the standard grass bale textures without the nice net wrapping and everything else on it. So I think having them spawn this way, where they stand upright like that, makes it a little easier. Depending on your terrain, how level the terrain is and everything, this is going to prevent them from rolling away. That works better for me, but you can experiment and play around with that and see what you can make of it. So yeah, modifying the grass bale stack for round bales with changing the look of the actual bale that's in the mod itself, the visuals. Also applying some extra user attributes, so only the appropriate size bale will be accepted by the mod itself. So you won't be able to put 155 or 180 bales in this mod, and vice versa. I wouldn't be able to put a 110 bale in a 155 mod, theoretically. I've not tested that. That's something you guys will have to have a bit of a play around with, but it does indicate to me, looking at that script where it says only bale size or only bale diameter, only bale width, it would only accept a bale width of whatever you've set that user attribute to. So that's my understanding of that. But I wanted to put this together just to show you what can be done with this particular mod, and just changing some parts. It is very time consuming, especially setting up the visual side of things, having to move all of the individual bales and create your actual visual stack within the editor. That is very time consuming, but I think if you're going to be working with modded balers more than the in-game ones, and you want to work with the bale stacks like I do, then this potentially is the way to go. Okay, so to finish up then, I've actually gone out and modified the area here slightly again, just to show you what can be put together with the different bale sizes and whatever else. This particular unit obviously is what I showed in the video as I put this together. This is the D110 setup. I've put some bales into there just to show you what that is, with 3,500 litre bales. This one's the 4,130 bales standard sized bales, but obviously with the different net wrap texture and all the rest of it like that. And then this one at the back here is the 155, so we have 5,000 litre bales. What I can actually do here, I'm going to get out of the spawn area. I'll spawn 4 in there like so, so you can see they spawn in perfectly fine. 5,000 litre bales, exactly what I would be putting in if I was to bale those. I'll just do all of these actually, why not, if we spawn those ones out. I haven't actually just checked the spawn points. Took me a while to set all this up, to be fair, so yeah, they seem to be working really well, so that's good. I like that. So we've got all the different size bales there and whatever else, but this one at the back here again, I haven't put anything in there just yet because I want to show you something with the extra part of the script what I showed earlier on in the video. But this is the D180, and I've set all the user attributes up for the bale widths and whatever else, diameters and so on. So you can actually see when I tried to put in a really small bale in here, it will actually tell me it won't be accepted. So I've tried to have a bit of a play around with this UAL trailer here to work with the different size bales. I think I've got, well, they may be a bit floaty actually, I might need to tweak those a little bit. The 110 bales, but I'm having trouble with some of the others. They seem to be conflicting and I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It's a bit, the script is a little bit more complicated than I wanted to really get into to end the video off here. I will look at it in a later date though. So if I actually come into here, if I just unload, you can see straight away it says straw bales not accepted, because these are only really small bales. And you can also see for whatever reason it conflicts with the 1.4 meter size bales. Even though it's got 1.1 size bales in there, it conflicts with the 1.4 bales. I'm not quite sure why that is. The 1.8s, the 1.5s, 155s, all the others work. It's just these small ones, they seem to have a bit of a problem, but I'll figure it out eventually, I'm sure. So I just wanted to show you that it will, with the correct user attributes set up, they will not be accepted in any other sized unit or stack than what is designated for that particular size. So if I come around to this one, which is the actual D110 bale, and I'll just reload those up so I can actually put them out here. If I come into there, I'll make this go out a little bit further, and there we go, they go in perfectly fine and are accepted. So it's just a little bit of messing around with some user attributes. Like I said earlier on in the video, the most time consuming part is actually building up the stacks themselves, placing all the bales, the visual bales, and setting that structure up and whatever else. The rest of it is relatively straightforward. There's just that part that's really time consuming. So I've expanded the buy bale mod here somewhat so I can actually buy them directly from here. This is more for the testing of doing the videos, whatever else. I got bored of actually having to cut the amount of grass that it was going to take me to do this, so I extended the capacity or the capabilities of the buy bale mod to give me what I needed. So if I set this one up, I'm pretty sure this one works okay, but we'll just see what happens here. Yeah, that one works fine, or well enough anyway. I don't know what it is. That one seems to be fine. Yeah, that one's fine. It's just the 1.1 bales that are giving me a bit of grief with the universal autoload script. I don't know why that is, but whatever. So now if I come round to the trigger, and if I put that over there like so, I've kind of tried to space these out so I can get in behind, so I'm not interfering with anything else, and spaced them out so theoretically you could have a structure somewhat like this and then be able to get around all of the bales and have potentially hay, straw and all sorts all over the place here. So if I do something like that and then Y, and there we go. So 1.8 size bales accepted in that stack because I've set that user attribute up for that diameter of bale. And then if I then come into here, press R, you can see 6,500 litre bales, 22, has a storage space of 36. I wanted to keep it somewhat realistic because of the size of the bale. They're much heavier, so you wouldn't have like this one over here has got like 90 because they're quite small. They don't weigh as much. But I figured, you know, big bales like this, you wouldn't have a massive, great high stack of bales because of their size. They would just collapse on themselves. That's my theory behind it anyway. So I'll spawn in 4 of those, and there we go. So 6,500 litre bales all spawned in. So yeah, I think, you know, with a little bit of work, you can actually get some really fantastic stacks put together with the different types of textures. But like I said earlier on, it's not really as simple as just switching out textures, unfortunately, because of the way the UV has been unwrapped on each of the objects. They differ from the standard bale type, so you can't just switch out textures. You do have to import the visual bale itself and then replace the ones that are already there with the new UV and all the rest of it. So I'm still learning some of these parts to do with UV unwraps and all that sort of stuff, but I find it, I don't have the time, that's my problem, to really get too deeply involved in some of this stuff. But I think for what I've put together there, it will certainly, I'm hoping at least, give people a direction to go in. You guys will be able to put something really fantastic together, I'm sure. But if you're looking to change perhaps maybe the texture of the bales and with the additional user attributes, restrict what bales will be accepted in each of the different stacks, I think you guys can put something really awesome together for your maps and whatever else. I mean, perhaps maybe even go down the road of potentially putting something together in a placeable style, so not a giant center import but a placeable mod with all of the different bale stacks with all of their different sizes and textures and whatever else. So I think I'm going to end it there. I'm ShyWizard. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.